Welcome everyone, this is All to Solve. In this series we're going to learn Python programming from scratch, but not in the usual way. Not in the usual long theory heavy kind of way. Instead of going line by line for every concept there is to know, we'll dive straight into hands-on mini projects inspired by real challenges that come from finance, accounting, and tax departments. So, whether it's automating reports, analyzing transactions, or building quick tools to save time on repetitive tasks, you'll learn Python step by step while actually solving problems that matter in the business world. So by the end, you won't just understand Python, you'll have a toolkit of practical skills you can take straight to work. So let's get started. As the first miniature project, I have a little file here that I'm just going to bring up now. 1 second. So here is the file. You should be able to see it on the screen now. It's just a plain, simple CSV file with a table of data. Contains dates, contains descriptions, amounts, and currency. So these are transactions or expenses. So the purpose of this automation that we're going to be building now with Python is to provide a category for each one of the transactions, right? So looking at this transaction, the first one here, we have Uber ride to client side, right? So it's to do with traveling, right? So we would assign category of travel to this transaction. Then we would move on to the next transaction and so forth and so on. So in order to kick this off, we will have to use Google Colab. So Google Colab is effectively a platform available on Google where you can just create labs and workflows here using Python. And you can connect to it pretty much for free. So we'll have to change runtime to a CPU. That should be sufficient. We're not using any GPUs here. And we're going to kick this off right away. So I've chosen the CPU runtime. I've started this here. And this green tick over here indicates that we're plugged in now. We're able to code. So in order to start with this, I'm going to deposit the file from my downloads. So that file, I'm just going to drag and drop it, just like this, into the folder. So I've opened the folder on the side here, and I'm just going to drop it straight here. Expenses file. So I can see it's been deposited here, and the way I know it is deposited is if I double click on this. On the right hand side there's a panel that opens up with the file content, so I can see it's there. I'm able to work with that. So now we're going to try and write some code. So here is the first cell that is open. I can create as many cells for execution as I want. So the first cell, let's try and import this file so that we're able to touch it, feel it, look at it, play with it and stuff. So in order to do this, we'll have to use a specific package or library called pandas, right? So in order to import this, we have to type import pandas, and we're gonna import it as PD. So we bring in pandas and we're able to use it inside our code as PD. Now you obviously feel free to change it to anything else, but PD normally is a standard. So I'm gonna click here and run it, and now I'm able to use pandas, right? It's already been imported. I'm able to use functions and methods provided by this pandas package. So let's first use pandas, right? So I'm writing PD dot means I am trying to access this object's methods and properties. So I am typing it as read CSV, so that's effectively allows me to download data from a CSV file. And I am just gonna write expenses.csv. Right, yes, so it imports, but you see what the problem is. I'm able to import it and the preview shows me the file, but I'm not saving anything. As soon as the cell stops executing, this report, this file goes away. So I need to be able to save this file, right? In order to save this file and be able to do something with this file, I am going to put it in a container called a variable. So I'm just going to pick a name, let's say df for data frame or data table. So this way, I've just changed my code and I'm able to save this file on the right hand side of the equal sign into the variable to the left hand side of the equal sign. Just by doing this, I've got my first variable. Congratulations. So I'm able to use it. So let's try and use this variable df data frame, and let's try and view what it looks like. So the head allows you to look at the first few entries of your table. So there you go. I'm able to see it, I'm able to view it, I'm able to see the columns. I can see what I'm working with. Right now, in order to interrogate it a little bit further, I'm able to provide a quick column summary by typing columns. Dataframe.columns. Once again, I'm using the variable dataframe dot because I want to access what it has, and I'm saying columns. And I'm able to see columns right here. The list of columns. So I've got date, description, amount, and currency. Another really good way of looking at the information provided by this data table is to look at the info. Now, info is a function, so we have to ensure we include parentheses there. Right, so we've got a slightly different summary now. So column number 1 provides the object type, and amount is showing as float 64 variable, so it's recognized as the number, the floating point. Okay, so let's try and play around, right, with some data within this data frame, right? So we're able to see it, we're able to get some information on the data frame, but let's try and pick, I don't know, first or second row and try and actually change the value or values within that first or second row, right? So creating another cell here. So let's say I would like to get to that first row, right? So how do I do this? I will type data frame, and in order to, I don't know, let's use the column first, right? So I want to touch the date. I want to look at date. Right, let's start with columns actually. So there you go. Typing the date, right? And I'm looking at the date column only. If I choose the amount instead of date, I'm able to see the amount. Brilliant. How about rows? So I've selected the column of the amounts. Can I select the row? So in order to do that, I have to use another set of square brackets, and I have to specify the index. So this is what this one is 0. So if I 23.50. So if I do this, so if I put 1 as an index, would I get 12.20? There you go, 12.20. So this is how we're accessing specific rows. And what happens if I do this way. Yeah, it's not gonna like it. It's not allowing me to do this. Right, so anyways, back to the date. Let's say I would like to look at the date, the first date, 2507 of first. Okay, so I would like to change it, right? Let's try and change it. So let's say data frame dash date, row number 0, and I would like to change the value. Let's say I would like to change it to, let's say 2019. First. There we go. So we just changed the value. Let's see if it worked. There we go. There's the value. So we're accessing the same value with we were looking at here. It was 2025 here. Now we're accessing the same value, and it's changed. And in fact, we can do the same thing with the amount as well, right? Let's change the amount. So what was the amount originally? Originally it was 23.5. And what if I would like to change this to, oh, sorry. What if I would like to change it to, I don't know, let's say 60.8. So we can see the amount has changed now, right? So just like that, we're able to change that. We can do the same thing with the description, but I'm guessing you're getting the point of how it works. Right, so what should we do now? So now let's try and apply a formula. So let's have a look at amounts once again, just to demonstrate that. This is really useful. So we have these values, right? So let's say we wanted to change them. So let's say every value should be increased by 5.5, let's say, right? So how can I do this? I would do the same thing here with data frame amount. So I've got access to the data frame column, and I'm going to say data frame amount plus 5.5. So I've applied a formula to every single value within this column, just like that. And now I would like to view my results. I would like to make sure that the values I've applied formulas to have changed. And there we go. Before it used to be 60.80, now it's 66.30. And all the other values have changed as well accordingly. This is how you apply changes to a formula, to a column. Right, okay, so now let's look at our original task. So we have this data frame, right? Let's look at it again. Data frame dot head. So we have this data frame with columns, and I would like to create a new column, right? And I would like for this column to contain the categories, right? I would like to map categories, some kind of a mapping table that I would need to use. For every single row, based on the description, I would like to add category. So how should I do this, right? So let's try and look at the new type called dictionary, right? So let's say I'm going to call these category rules equals. So the dictionary, right? It starts with these curly braces, right? Curly brackets. And what normally happens is we have to have two parts to the dictionary. These are the dictionaries. So this is our first dictionary that we're building. So in order to have a dictionary, you need to have a key and a value. Key in the value. So these are key and the value pairs. So the first one will be the key. So let's say this one's going to be, what was the first value? It's Uber ride to client side. So this one clearly to do with travel. Right? So that's the key. And we're going to put the colon sign, and we're going to say, okay, so this will be the list of values for that key. So let's say we're going to say, I don't know, what values do we have here? We have Uber, then we have, I don't know, let's put train. Note is going down as a string. And let's say for now, let's put fly. So that's our first value. So then we're going to put comma, and we're going to say, okay, so the next one will be meals. So this one is a key once again. This is another pair of key and the value. Meals and entertainment. Right, so now we put the colon sign again, and we are putting a list of values. So the first value for entertainment and meals will be, I don't know, something like coffee. You can see cost of coffee over here, and I don't know, let's put Pret. Or restaurant, right? Doesn't really matter. Right, okay, so we have two values now. So we have our variable of dictionaries, and we have a travel key, and the meals and entertainment key. So let's try and play with this variable, right? So we're going to say category rules. Category rules, and we are going to use these brackets here to specify the key, right? So we have only two keys now, travel and meals and entertainment. So if I put travel, I forgot to run this one. There's an error message saying category rules not defined. Just didn't run this one. Right, so when I put this down as travel, I am able to see the values of that travel key. Right, so I'm specifying travel, and the compiler produces Uber train flight. What if I put meals and entertainment? Yeah, it provides to me this value here, which is the list. Right, so that's pretty cool. So that's how it works, and we're going to use this now to do our super cool mapping, right? So how should we do this? So for me to, I would have to create a data frame column of category, right? But I would have to perform the mapping here, and I am thinking how best to perform the mapping. So I would have to use the category. So I would have to use description. The best way to do this probably would be to create a function that would go for all of these mapping categories and decide what category should be applied to this description. Right? So let's define a function. So now we're about to define a first function in Python. In order to define a function, we have to put def for define, put space, and then let's just call it categorize. Categorize, and then we open the parentheses here, and we are saying, okay, what are we passing to this function? So the way functions work, function is like a tool that you call out. You say, okay, categorize, but then you need to pass it some kind of a parameter, something to work with, right? Because categorize function will be performing something. Just need to give it something to work with. That's all. So in our particular case, we'll be just putting description. And we need to specify what's the description going to be like. It's just going to be a string. So yes, and here we're showing kind of what it's going to be returning. So the function, as a result, once it does something inside of this function body, it will provide us the output, which will be the string. So then at the end of the function definition, we have to put the column, right? And we have to click enter, and it takes us to our first indentation here. So as you can see, functions in Python, when you define them, we have to indent our next following line, so that code that will belong to the function will have to be structured here now. So let's first look at our description. Description, we'll have to go to the lowercase. So we're taking that description and saying dot lower, right? So now whatever description we're going to have, so if we have Uber with a capital U, that will just be all lowercase letters. Now for the next piece, we're going to say, okay, so for every category and the keyword that we have in our category rules dot items, right? Okay, so it pretty much auto completes it here for me. So yeah, so what this does here is we take in our category rules, which is this dictionary here, and we're saying give me all the items that we have, right? Because this is our dictionary. So it takes travel, it takes meal and entertainment keys, right? And it provides them as keywords. Then it also provides the category. Sorry, this is the category, and these are the keywords. The first one is the category, which is meals and entertainment, for instance, and the keywords for that category will be the list of these values. And then for every single keyword, in fact, wait, that's wrong. That's not what I wanted to do. So let's see. So we have our category, we have our keywords, right? So I need to look into the keywords. So how should I do this? So for k in keywords, so I'm saying for every single keyword that I have, but I just get a list of these keywords. Just thinking how best to do this. So for k in keywords, okay, so I can just use it this way. So for k in keywords, and I can say if any k in description, because description is effectively the list of words, right? So I'm saying if any of these keys are present inside of the description, which is this one, then return true. Alright, and this is how if statement works. So it goes if, checks if this is the case, if the word is present, if a keyword is present in our description, then return category. So we're kind of stopping everything and saying, okay, just whatever. If you, once you find the first word, alright, so if the first word is Uber, and if it's found, which it would be here, we're stopping the whole thing and we're saying, okay, so pick this category. We found one of the keywords, so please assign the category immediately. Otherwise, let's pull it down as miscellaneous. I think it should be fine. So let's register this function and let's apply it. So in order to apply it, we have to say, okay, for description. So here we're defining our category and we're saying, okay, for every category value that we're going to create now in our data frame, please use description, and we use apply concept here. Apply effectively, make sure that we're using a function for every single row. And this function obviously requires a description, and description will be passed because this description precedes the apply function and the categorize. So this value of description will be passed straight to this categorize automatically by default. Let's try and run it, and let's look at our data frame again now. So what do we see now? We see that we have a new category column that's been added, and we have some first values assigned. So coffee's been assigned, travel's been assigned, and then miscellaneous, and travel's been assigned again. That's brilliant. Now, okay, so this is how we are able to do this. So what I'm going to do now, I am going to bring a hard-coded larger table for categorization, right? And I'm just going to paste it here instead. Rerun it. Now I'm going to go back to reapply my categories, and let's look at our data frame. So data frame's got a lot more values now, but all I did, I just provided additional values for our mapping for our dictionary. So there you go, just like that, we were able to map, apply some mapping. So this would be effectively the in finance or accounting or tax, we work with spreadsheets where we have the reports. So this would be a really good example of how you would apply a VLOOKUP. This would be a more complicated, convoluted example of a VLOOKUP. In a VLOOKUP, you just use a formula, but instead, we created our own VLOOKUP right here. Which is brilliant. So that's pretty much it. Let's create a little summary table, a little summary page here. So in order to do that, prior to this, now that we've completed our task, let's save this new report, right? Because at the minute we only have the original without the category. So let's save it. In order to do that, we just pick our data frame and we'll say, what is it? So to CSV, and we're just specifying the name. Let's say we're going to call it report produced.csv. Once I save it, there we go. We've got our report now with categories, just like that, in a few lines of code. Right, so this was not too difficult. Let's try and build a quick summary of our report, right? So I think, so how do we do this? So we take our data frame. We already have this table, so we're going to work with that. So we're going to use a function called group by. For those of you that worked with SQL or databases, you know, group by effectively kind of condenses your report and tries to aggregate it by certain dimensions. So this will be a very simple example. So we're going to say group by. We're going to open the curly. We're going to open the brackets, and we're going to say category. Category here, and we're going to say as index equals false. So just don't bother too much about what as index equals false means, but it's just a little something that we have to apply in this particular case. So now, now that that is done, we're able to say, okay, so group the report by category. So we're only taking category out of this, and we would like to provide an amount. All right, so we're taking, with what I've just done, we're taking group by, and then we're saying, okay, and keep the amount, just the two-dimension amount, category, group it by category, but we're leaving the amount for now. So what this does is, yeah, so for now it's not much of a use here. So what we're doing, we're effectively saying sum. Let's sum it. So for every category, we're providing a sum now. So grouping it by category, and obviously we condensing everything down. And that way, that would be a really nice, meaningful report now. So, and let's also add sorting as well. So let's say sort values. That way it would kind of be aggregated, and at the same time it would be also put in some kind of order. So we'll say let's sort it by amount, and let's do it by ascending equals false. Let's do it by descending order. Right. So we've got our highest values first, and so forth and so on. So we have a final summary now. Let's try and save this summary. We can't save it because, once again, I've built this summary. I'm even showing the head of the summary, which is kind of useless, but we would like to save it. So let's save it. So we have our expression. Let's put it down into a variable as summary. We have summary. Let's try and use it to ensure that it's working. There you go. And let's finally save this variable. Summary to CS. Just like that. Well, there we go. So we've gone through quite the chain of events here. We've imported our file, done some playing around with the file. We were able to change values of the file, applied some formulas, applied some mappings, build our own VLOOKUP analogy, and produced the final report. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know if you think it's valuable. And please let me know any other challenges you would like me to tackle for you using Python. I think we might do that as another project. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, thanks.